It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Ritchie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch Harper and Nate Slack with you on this Saturday afternoon. BYU basketball will be back in action coming up on Monday night against Villanova. Tip-off at 7:30, pregame at 6:30. So that means no Cougar Tracks on Monday night. There will be a podcast from Vegas on Monday, so be on the lookout for that, but no show over the air on KSL News Radio. But every night, 6:30 p.m., you can listen to Cougar Tracks. Get your daily BYU fix here on the legacy home of the Cougars. Next week, though, BYU football is back in action after a bye, and they're going to be taking on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who are one of the top teams in college football. And, Nate, we talked about it already, how there could be college game day, but what we do know is there's going to be a special game element to this. Royal helmets with a new logo. The Sailor Coug decal is going on the helmets. Are you a fan of BYU's new lid for next week's game against Texas Tech?
I'm a fan of mixing it up. I'm not a huge fan of the logo, just because we've used that logo already for a couple games. So just the one game, right? It was just the one game against SMU in the bowl game.
Yes, that's
they
right.
used that logo. If they were to put like the Y with the Cougar over the top and throw that on a helmet, I'm all in. But to do the Sailor Coug logo, I'm not like, it's going to be cool, but I'm not going crazy over it. If that makes sense.
How about this, though? Are you excited to see BYU wearing their home blue uniforms on a road game that isn't Utah? Don't see that very often.
No, I can't think of the last time BYU had that.
I was looking at that. So, and I know there's a lot of caveats to that because you could just say Utah last year. But if you exclude the Utah games, you exclude bowl games, I don't recall a blue jersey wearing game. That's because Texas Tech is going to roll out its all-white uniforms that are inspired by Patrick Mahomes. So it's a big game. These programs are rolling out special uniforms. It's going to be an event. I will say on the Sailor Coug helmet, I'm with you. I'm okay with trying new stuff and kind of throwing new wrinkles into the mix, but I don't know. It doesn't hit to me the same as the Stretch Y, that Sailor Coug. I like it. I'm okay with it. I think it's a good logo. What I will say, I want to one day see BYU roll out the BYU with the Cougar on the top logo, or the logo that you're wearing on your hat right now, which is a block Y with the Cougar on the top. That's what I want to see on a helmet one day for BYU.
Yeah, the block Y with the Cougar on the top is probably my favorite logo. The full BYU with the Cougar on the top, not the one from the 2000s.
No.
Not that one. We're talking about the one from the 80s.
Massacre. No.
It's a cool logo. I think the full BYU might be a little bit too busy on the helmet, but
how
sign
about
me up
this?
for it.
How about this? If you want to go Sailor Coug, an oversized Sailor Coug logo. That was kind of the thing in like 2015. Maybe that's past its time, the oversized logo, but how about an oversized Sailor Coug that just takes up the entire helmet?
Sign me up for that. I always think back to like the Boise State teams. I feel like
Yes.
Boise State always had the oversized logo. But if you're going to do that, and maybe I would have liked the Sailor Coug more on the Texas Tech game helmet if it was the old school Sailor Coug, where it's not as like crisp and rounded. It's a little more jagged. You got the little points and the whiskers coming off. I'd be okay with that. I think it would look cooler, but I'd be down for a full-size logo on a helmet.
I will say this. This brings up an interesting thought. I do love that BYU rolls out different looks every week. It's fun because they have a foundation of colors and uniform combinations, and you can do all these little small tweaks to where at season's end, you have 12 different uniform combinations every single year. This is, I believe, I know it's the second consecutive year they've definitely done this, where they've had 12. Pretty much since 2020, it's been BYU has 12 different looks, every single week. As time has gone by, and this has become a common deal where BYU is wearing a different look every single week, do you still like that, or are you leaning that you want to go back to more of the traditional looks where white helmet, white jersey, royal blue pants? Do you want to get more of that? Because I will say, you go through a course of a season and we realize we don't see many of the traditional looks anymore for BYU.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, one uniform combo I really miss that I didn't think I would miss is if you look back at the 2013 Texas game and you look at the 2019 USC game and that white helmet with the navy jersey and the white pants.
You want that back?
It's a crisp look, Mitch. You can't just drop that. It's gone. We haven't worn that. BYU has not worn that in 2025 or 2024. You got to go back to 2023, the last time they wore that combo.
I like the navy, and I like the look that they had against Portland State. I like that navy blue look. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the white helmet with the navy blue logo. I like the navy blue lid with the stretch Y and a white face mask or navy blue face mask. That's what I'm on board with. But, you know, I like that they have a bunch of different options. I guess I'm a fanboy of the royal blue. I love BYU's royal blue, but I just sometimes miss that traditional iconic look, you know. But at the same time, I do like that BYU's equipment staff throws in these new wrinkles, because it was a long time where we never saw this sort of stuff, and we never saw different. I was looking over the course of the Kalani era since 2016. They've had, if you include all the face mask changes, all these different looks, there's been more than 20 different helmet combos that BYU has worn since Kalani became the head coach. You think back to pre-2016, granted, it wasn't always common in college football to always change it up. This is kind of a 15-year thing where it's really changed the game. Oregon, I know, has been doing it for the last 20-plus years, but it wasn't always common practice to just change up your helmet, your uniform every single week. But so it has been cool to see all these different helmet looks in the BYU uniform identity. And we'll see a new one next week when they take on Texas Tech next week. And you're just kind of overarching thoughts of the matchup and how BYU stacks up against a Tech team that should have Baron Morton. He's going to play today. He's the starting quarterback for Texas Tech. Their backup, Will Hammond, he's out for the year with an injury. He was the one, remember, that shined against Utah as the backup. But just your thoughts on the matchup of how BYU stacks up against a really good Red Raider squad.
You know, I like the matchup quite a bit, I think. And it's mainly because BYU is going to be coming off of a bye. And I know historically BYU's not done great after bye weeks. You think back to 2023, they come out against TCU and get beat pretty handily. Last year they have a bye and then play Utah, and they kind of sleepwalk through the first two quarters.
Kind of slow start against East Carolina even too this year.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't until Schmev, Evan Johnson's pick six, that really broke things open for BYU.
Yeah, and I think the difference is for this one, the sense of urgency. I think the guys remember last year about that, the final three games, and they go 1-2, and if they had just gone 2-1, they're playing in the Big 12 championship and possibly even getting that large if they don't win the conference championship. So I think the sense of urgency is going to be there, and I think they maybe smell a little bit of blood in the water, because they experienced what Texas Tech is going to be experiencing next week. They experienced that same thing last week of playing 6 consecutive games in a row, and then having a game where Kalani said it's kind of an all-in game. You got to empty the tank. So I think Texas Tech's going to be having to do that against BYU. But I think BYU is going to come in with that mentality of, we know what these guys are feeling. We know they're banged up, they're sore. Baron Morton hasn't been playing as much as he did last year because he's been banged up, and so that's why Will Hammond had to come in and do what he did. And so I think they see an opportunity to play a really good team that is a little banged up and tired and sore, and they're looking a little bit past BYU to that bye week. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be ready for BYU. They're going to be all in, but I think BYU knows that they need that bye week, and this is an opportunity for them to pounce and take advantage of it.
Some numbers on Texas Tech. They're the number one scoring offense in the Big 12 at 43.6 points per game. They're also the number one defense in points allowed. Texas Tech's only allowing 12.4 points per game. Now, that also includes non-conference, and Texas Tech played a weak non-conference schedule, but This has been a really dominant team pretty much all year. Their one loss was against Arizona State on the road when Arizona State had Sam Leavitt. That was a 26-22 loss, and they stormed back, almost nearly pulled off that game when they were down big. But Texas Tech, I think if they get by K-State today, it's currently tied up at 0 early minutes of that game in Manhattan with about 12:30 to go in the first quarter. Then they've got BYU, they got UCF and at West Virginia. I feel like their season is defined today and next Saturday for the Red Raiders. And if they win these two games, they're probably going to definitely be in Arlington and most likely be a playoff team as well. So this is a huge stretch for a Red Raider program that's not used to this spot, where BYU, as weird as it sounds to say, only year 3 in the Big 12, they're used to having the big spotlight, undefeated season, high expectations on them, where Texas Tech, this is all new to them. They've historically always been a 7-5, 8-4 program. They've had high expectations going into seasons. 2 years ago, lofty expectations. They didn't come anywhere close to that. So that's a new dynamic for this Tech team, but I will say they are super talented. I think it's the most talented football team that BYU will face this season in Texas Tech. So it is going to be a challenge, but I like the fact that BYU has had extra time to prepare for this one. And I'd like to think that some of those specials that BYU has not had much success with this year offensively, maybe they can work this go-round against a Tech team with extra time to prepare and get those locked in for this one against a really good Red Raider squad. Next week's game is going to kick off at 10 a.m. We will have extended pregame coverage beginning at 7 a.m. between the Cougs and the Red Raiders from Lubbock next week. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get to a Big 12 scoreboard check-in. We'll check in on that Texas Tech game. Also, a big upset in the Big 12 that shakes up the championship race. We'll hit on that next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.